Yo, welcome back to the Beardworks Podcast, episode 20, the big 2-0. Scads, what's going on?
Hey, man. Yeah, 20. Crazy, isn't it?
20 weeks, man. That's longer than a term. That's like 2 terms at school.
Yeah, no, it's been a crazy, we say it every week, pretty much like a crazy ride, you know. We're just powering on, but we're really enjoying it. So, yeah, happy as.
Yeah, so this is the Halloween episode. It's a bit spooky, so we'll start the chat off with something a bit creepy, bit how you going. The Ghosts multiplayer. We're both really liking it, so yeah, we'll let Scads take the reins.
Yeah, so I just want to express our thoughts so far on it. So we've played through the co-op story, and how many chapters was that? 9?
Yeah, it's 9.
8.
But you can do them at 3 tiers each.
Yeah. So there's 3 missions in each side of each chapter. And yeah, pretty much you have 3 different tiers. So you got bronze, silver, and gold. Now we've played through the entire thing on bronze, and even played the final mission on silver. Nick had played with somebody else at the time, so he'd jumped up a few ranks higher than I had. So yeah, we did struggle in that. That was probably our first real challenge, I guess.
Yeah, it definitely was pretty easy until the last mission where we did on silver, because we did everything on bronze because that's all you have at the start. You can't even go to the harder tiers. But yeah, silver definitely kicked off that final fight in that, like, up that hill.
Oh, yeah.
We ran around the corner and literally it was just a flood of demon Mongol soldiers. It was hectic.
Yeah, it was so cool because like that last part, like that was the first time I felt that we were struggling to survive, because like we have no restarts left, like no checkpoints, I should say. If we died, we were finished and we'd start from the very start of the mission again. So I play as the Ronin, so I'm able to use my super ability to bring us back to life and heal us. Obviously, if I have to still be alive to use my ability, so if I'm not alive, we're dead pretty much. But that was really cool. And you're playing as the hunter? No, the ghost.
No, I'm assassin. So my super is I get 3 really powerful attacks that like are unblockable when I'm impervious when I'm in that form. So like it's usually 3 instant kills on a normal enemies, but there's like wheel verse and those like Oni like summoners and the big hammer guys. So they take like my super would kill one of them. So
yeah, with all 3 hits.
Yeah, it's definitely a uphill battle, but it was good.
But yeah, that was a really cool fight scene at the end there. And obviously these chapters are telling the story of I guess in the final boss that we're going to be facing in the raid. So we'll get to the raid shortly. But my overall first impressions of it, I wasn't sure what to expect from the co-op kind of side of things, because I thought it might be open world where it's very linear. There are certain ways you can get around camps, but if anyone's, we hope you played Ghosts of Tsumsima, but in saying that there are camps around it, similar to what you have camps in Far Cry. You just got to liberate them, and then it's all good to go. And they're gone for good. And so in this thing, it's in the spiritual world. So like the first mission, I can remember we started up, and it's just like blood red samurai, or that filter you can put on in the photo mode. It's exactly like that.
Yeah, it's definitely a stylistic change from the base game, which is more just like Edo period, like traditional samurai vibe. This is full spirit realm, like the sky's glowing red. There's giant floating hearts that are beating above you. It's like a full anime.
It's like a Dread kind of feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, they wanted you to be in like a sinister environment, but it is just a retexture of the main game.
Yeah, and I found that really cool because it reminds me a bit of Bleach, as if anyone's seen the anime Bleach, where the Soul Reapers are the good guys, and the Hollows are the bad guys. And what happens is that these Hollows are the ones that have not passed on to the other worlds. So there's a normal world that we live in, and there's the spiritual world, which is where the spirits live in our world, but we can't see it. And so that reminds me a bit of that. And it reminds me when we're running around as samurai, it reminds me of that we're Soul Reapers, and that we're destroying the Hollows, which are the bad guys, and the souls that are trapped, which are the good souls that need to move on but have been trapped by the Hollows. We're freeing them to move on and eventually be at rest. So I had really cool Bleach vibes with when I started playing this game. If you have, look at it a certain way, but the overall missions we found that were pretty basic, really, weren't they?
Yeah, you get a bit of dialogue at the start of each of them, but really all the multiplayer in Ghosts is you spawn in together, clear the camp, kill the enemy. That's it.
And you travel between the Torii gates, which is kind of cool because you go through like this cool like passage, and each chapter is a different passage. And I found that really cool because it had that really red tinge to it, and that feeling of dread that you're moving on to the next area to clear. But what was one of our favorite missions was on the boats, wasn't it?
Yeah, when
With
we
the
versed
spirits.
the ghost Mongol ships. That was pretty sick.
Like you had to use the lanterns to identify where they are because they were invisible, but you'd still lock onto them though, so it's not really that much of a problem.
Yeah, nah. The whole campaign was... I really enjoyed the Ghosts base campaign and the multiplayer campaign. But really...
It's free anyway.
But really what we're keen for is the setup for the raid. It's going to be brutal.
We're hoping anyway. So far, obviously, we've only played through bronze and we started a few silvers. Obviously, as you go up the tiers, the enemies get tougher. There's different spawns as well as different modifiers that you can add to the thing. And like there's curses you can put on. So that's cool. So we need to go through and play it again because I think you need to be a level 100 before you can even enter the raid. And even then, people are saying you want to be around 105 before you walk into it. So we've got a little bit more to go yet. And it comes out on October 30th, which is this weekend.
Yeah. Halloween.
So, but yeah, overall, I'm really keen for this raid to see what they do because we've already seen bits and pieces throughout the story. Obviously, with the curses, with the co-op story, with the curses and the other modifiers and stuff like that. But we've also seen throughout the missions that there's with the sword powers, how you've got different glowing effects, which is what can only kill certain things or activate certain things. So it'll be really cool to see how they implement that into the raid.
Yeah, hopefully in the raid we get some more fresh enemies because pretty well 90% of the enemies in the whole story was just retextures of enemies in the base game, like Mongols with glowing eyes, pretty well.
Yeah, the only really different ones were the Oni ones and the summoners and the healers and stuff like that, which were kind of cool. But I want to see some more like really stylistic kind of Japanese real demons, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
like and have proper battles.
Some Neo vibes, like some of those actual creatures that are like just hectic.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. And the thing is though, like all this is for free, which is crazy to think that Ghosts of Tsushima came out as a single player experience. And it was a great one. Like they did it so well, and it was such a good experience. Some people might say it's a bit repetitive, a bit bland in some areas, but I loved it from top to bottom.
It was better
I know
than
you
Last
did
of Us too, easily.
Yeah, that's the thing. They are different games, but yeah, they did come out around the same time, so you're always going to compare them. And obviously, with this year being, very isolating for everyone, you're going to remember these games, as your experience of 2020. And so when people think about it, they're going to think, oh, Ghost of Tsushima was a really good game and they enjoyed that better than The Last of Us. But yeah, just for a game that was a single player experience now to this multiplayer experience, and the multiplayer may not be to the top level of what the single player was, but it's still there and it's free and you can play it with your mates, which is awesome.
But yeah, moving on, Ghost, heaps good experience. Another thing that we've both hyped and enjoyed even more recently as of last night, Blood of Zeus dropped. That anime we were pretty keen for.
Yeah, on Netflix. Netflix are just killing it right now. I mean, obviously some of their live action shows aren't as good as they could be, and they're just trying to build up their catalog. But no, I'm just reading this statement now from, not statement, but this article from IGN saying anime is becoming a huge success for Netflix, so they're going to keep pushing and producing more. Now, whether they produce their own or just go out and get the license to, stream existing ones, it doesn't really matter because I have Crunchyroll, have Funimation, which if a good streaming service, there's nothing wrong with them. Crunchyroll is top tier because the episodes released like not long after the release in Japan. But there's not much with the Crunchyroll. The Japanese, so the English dub doesn't come out for a long time. Obviously, there's a bit of a difference between the two. But yeah, like having that English available like straight away on Netflix is awesome. And yeah, they're just powering through. And now they're creating their own stuff, obviously with Castlevania not long ago, and now with Blood of Zeus. So, I mean, I'm 3 episodes into it. Nick, have you finished it yet?
I got an episode and a half, and it came out last night.
Yeah, you smashed it. There's only, 8 episodes, isn't there?
Yeah, and they're like 24 minutes each. It's a real easy watch.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, like we spoke of this just before we started recording, is that the stylistic way they've gone about it, is pretty similar to what Castlevania was. So, yeah. What's your first take?
Like, I don't know what
what you're saying.
I don't know what the workflow or the pipeline is like at the studio that makes it, because it's small. It's like an indie kind of studio that Netflix has snatched up. They're very good, but it's definitely not at the caliber of like a
traditional anime,
Fate Stay Night, or like a Hero.
Yeah,
like that shit's art. But Castlevania and Blood of Zeus, it's got its own style, and I really, really like it. It's like it's budget, but in the best way. I don't know how to explain it.
what I was saying, what we spoke about this before, is that it is very like you can tell the difference between like My Hero and Blood of Zeus because the frames are a lot less in Blood of Zeus. But in saying that, it does feel really smooth and real good to watch because it's just it's the style that they've done it, and it reminds me straight of Castlevania. When I started watching it, I was like, okay, this feels like season 1 of Castlevania.
Well, it is the same people, isn't it?
I'm not sure. They had different creators in there, so I'm not sure if they're all the same team drawing. But I mean, Castlevania, even season 3, has that bit slow of a frame rate, but it just suits it now. You're just so used to it. It feels a bit more clunky, but it's good to watch. You haven't even finished Castlevania season 3, have you?
I've got 2 episodes left. I don't know. I really, really like vampire stuff. I love it. Like, but I don't know. I don't know what came out when that was out or something. I just left it. But
I think you originally said you weren't a big fan of season 3. That sort of dropped off a little bit.
Probably. Since Dracula went, I don't know. I just love
Dracula. Either way, the final episode of Castlevania
I'm going to
3
finish it this week now after watching Blood of Zeus.
Yeah, the last episode of season 3 is just god tier. I loved it so much, the action anyway. But yeah, coming back to Blood of Zeus, it's obviously Greek mythology. I actually really like their take on the gods, as in like Zeus in particular. Like we've always seen the iterations that we've seen of Zeus and other Greek mythology and their gods and stuff is that they are very cool, calm, and collected. Obviously, some aren't in that way. But Zeus in this one is just like a real rebel.
Oh yeah, he's bloody mad lad. He just does what he wants to. Kicks off. The thunder's coming in, the lightning's coming in. It's just
that one scene where we're going to spoil a little bit for you, but obviously go watch it. It's not a very long watch, so go watch it while you can. When Zeus is talking to Hera about and all the other gods come up behind him and they're like, because he's about to intervene, and they're like, no, you made that's part of your rules. And he goes, if without our like laws, it would just be chaos. And he just like pulls down the
be chaos.
Yeah. Yeah. And just bloody like goes to launch it. But then obviously Poseidon just holds him off and says like, no, we don't need to do this, which is like shows that there's conflict and that no matter what kind of higher power you are, that you are always going to want to do something that you shouldn't be doing. But yeah, I'm really keen to see where it kicks off from now because obviously our main character is just in what the episode I've just finished has just lost his mother. So I want to see where it kicks off after that. But so far, it's been a good watch, and like I said, it is very. When I think about now, the demons that are in the show remind me a lot of the Castlevania kind of they're beasts,
creatures of the night.
Yeah, so far, I mean, it's awesome. I love it so far. It's easy to watch.
Intro cutscene where you see the gods versus the giants. And like Hera's about to be like absorbed by that big one, and Zeus tackles her into it, and then just lightning bolts through its head. That was
I love that. The start of the battle again, when he takes out the final Titan, I love that when he just like pulls out like some kind of like beam cannon and just like wipes him out. Like obviously he's using lightning, but he's like this. It just reminds me of something from a proper like anime. Not saying this isn't proper, but from an anime in Japan where there's like this massive like laser beam just shoots through something and. Zeus is just like pulling out this crazy powerful attack and wiping out a Titan. That was so sick.
Yeah, it says when you boot up the episode, it says a Netflix original anime, but you can tell it's definitely a Western-made anime.
Yeah.
So it's more in the vein of a cartoon over an anime, I think, just by looking at it.
When you think about it, they do, and they have created the facial features, also in the features, but the moving of the mouth to match English stuff.
Oh, yeah. So the dub's definitely English. First and foremost.
Yeah, not compared to whereas traditional anime is Japanese first and then they just dub into it, which even as you watched Dragon Ball Z when you're younger, you would notice that the mouth didn't always match up, but you didn't care because it was so bloody awesome.
Oh, mate, you see Goku charge up for 10 episodes and then just obliterate something. It's still worth it.
But I think Netflix is going down the right path right now because they're creating so much. And the thing is, they don't have they have their Netflix original stuff, that their TV shows and their movies that they have stars that they have already got signed on for that kind of stuff. But the anime stuff is normally strictly Japan kind of things, or even China's created some really decent animes. So this is a good area for them to sort of put their 2 cents in and bring out something like this every 6 months because they could do that, and it's not super. I mean, it doesn't cost as much as a big budget film, so it's a home run in my eyes, I think.
Oh yeah, if they just keep doing these random series, like they've done vampires now, they've done Greek gods, they could do monsters, they could do whatever, they could do zombies.
Yeah. Well,
whatever
I loved
art style would be so quick to produce.
loved Death and Robots when they released that.
Yeah, that's sick.
That was like obviously every day they sourced out to so many different studios and they said, these are your criteria you have to meet. Go out and make like, what are they, like 3 to 10 minute episodes? Even the longest one was like 15. Those were so good.
Yeah.
Different little experience and all had the same like, kind of track of, what I just said the title was. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. So if they do more of that, like I think they talked about a season 2 of that or just like something else along that line. So because that was very cyberpunky, especially that first episode when they can control the creatures through their bodies. That was so cool.
Yeah, that's a wicked show. Very high production value, a bit different to like Castlevania and this Blood of Zeus.
But it definitely feels like when you have different people come in and direct stuff and create stuff that this is the plan that when you guys follow and they say like love, death and robots, that's what the core of the take has to be. But then you look at all the different iterations that people put out and you're like, wow, these guys, everyone has a vastly different like view on those 3 words. So it's so cool to see that kind of production come through. But yeah.
For sure.
Blood of Zeus. Yeah, Blood of Zeus, keen to finish that off and we can talk about that. Maybe we might get Pap on again for that before the end of this year. That'd be good to have a bit of chat with because he's obviously our Greek mythology guru.
If people don't know, me and Pap are Greek, but Pap's definitely more Greek than I am.
And I'm the full Australian in this chat, so I'm the skip, that's what we call around here. But moving on from that, since it is Halloween, I thought, well, Nick actually had this good idea too, but we can maybe talk about some horror movies that we've seen or that we're yet to see that would be worth a bit of a watch over this weekend coming up for anyone that does celebrate Halloween. So Nick, do you have any horror movies off the top of your head that you think's worth a good watch?
Yeah, do yourself a favor, get the original Evil Dead trilogy, so Evil Dead 1 and 2 and then Army of Darkness, and just treat yourself. Yep. They're a bit cringy because of the era they're made in, but they are a wild, wild ride.
That's what you have to think, is that when these movies came out, how did people perceive it, if you know what I mean? Like, people, after watching Jaws, were afraid to get in the water after that. And Jaws isn't, obviously back then, looked so realistic. Now we're like, animatronics and stuff like that looks so fake. But yeah, that is definitely a good shout. The Evil Dead are truly good. And if you haven't seen Ash vs. Evil Dead, that's not a bad watch either, this series.
Yeah, that's the continuation of the universe when he's a bit older.
Yeah, it's always good to watch that kind of stuff. Probably one of the ones that freaked me out when I was younger was the original Exorcist. So The Exorcist, I should say. If anyone's seen that, I remember watching a few scenes. I've never watched the movie from start to end. I don't know why, but I've seen the scenes. I've seen the one where when she's possessed and she comes down the staircase all mangled and she throws up blood. Oh man, that was the stuff of nightmares back when I was younger.
Yeah, the one movie that scarred me as a kid, and literally it's one of my favorite movies of all time now, is the original Blade. When I was a little kid, my uncle put on like the first Blade, and the intro is that rave where all the blood starts pissing out the ceiling and they all their teeth come out and literally it was just every nightmare I've ever had come to life in front of me, and I just shit myself for years. I could never even play the original Blade PS1 game that I had because the music would freak me out, just that techno. And now I love Blade, and I've literally, looking at my shelf above my computer right now, I've got about 30 vampire movies.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I remember there was a film when I was younger talking about movies that freaked me out. There was a movie with Robert De Niro back in the day called Hide and Seek. That scared the crap out of me, and I'm just trying to have a look now and see who was some of the actors in it. Dakota Fanning, she was only that's when she was super young. So this movie came out in 2005, and I remember watching my aunts and uncle's place, and my mum was away with my sister. I think they were in Adelaide or something like that, and I was home with Dad, and I went down and stayed at my auntie and uncle's place, and I watched it with my cousins. It terrified me. To think that, because the whole synopsis of the story is that the father is the bad guy. I won't ruin any more of that for you, but you should definitely watch it. And that terrified me because one of the shots, it showed this man out in the rain in the woods walking around, or I'm not sure if he's out there, but anyways, I don't want to ruin any more of the story, but he's in a yellow rain jacket. And
similar to like I Know What You Did Last Summer and shit, like raincoat.
Yeah. was terrifying. That was one of the things. Those two movies, The Exorcist and Hide and Seek, were always got to me a little bit. And then there's some other films that are really good horror movies to watch. And I think we both can agree with this one. The Babadook is a really good horror movie film.
Yeah, local one. That's made in Adelaide for people that don't know where, like, SA, where
we're
dads are from. Yeah.
So The Babadook is actually a really good horror movie you should watch. It's not as there's not as many jump scares as these modern day movies. It did come out in 2014, but it builds the suspense and the horror, and it really does feel like a terrifying experience compared to a lot of horror movies these days are a bit generic. Like we say it all the time, with their jump scares and stuff like that. But yeah, The Babadook's a good shout. Nick, any other ones you got?
I don't know if it's one of my favourites or if I'll like rave on about it that much, but recently I watched that new one, The Cleansing Hour from that Shudder, the horror streaming service. Yep. It's like this dude is on Twitch and he live streams these like exorcisms, and I'm doing air quotes right now, exorcisms. It's all fake and bullshit and set up. Like it's his Twitch show. Like it's a character he's playing, so he's not even a priest. But then one of the episodes is actually a possessed person, and that's where it kicks off. I won't spoil it, but it is an interesting watch. It's like a kind of a modern day exorcism.
Yeah, no, I've seen the Shudder. Obviously, it's being displayed everywhere at the moment. That's a good shout. I think I need to go around and watch some more horror movies. Been a bit lackluster recently, but there was another one that really interested me, and that was on Netflix, and it's called Gerald's Game.
Yeah, I've seen it.
That was an interesting concept.
Have you watched it?
I didn't mind that. Pardon?
Have you watched it?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah,
I didn't rate it.
I didn't think it was as good as it could have been, but in saying that, there is something horrific about being not so much handcuffed, but stuck in an area where like the front door is open, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I
think anything can walter in.
The worst part of that movie is that big mutant looking dude. He's a hectic looking dude.
But the whole idea is that she thinks it's in her head, but then you find that that's not the case.
Yeah, some of it was legit.
That he was actually there. So that's kind of terrifying. What's another? I'm trying to think of some other ones. I didn't. Now, it's not a super scary film, but It Follows was really interesting.
I haven't seen it. Everyone says it's all right.
So It Follows is based around the premise that, you get this curse passed on to you, and this spirit or whatever it is, it tracks you down. But the thing is, it only ever walks, and it can come in the form of anybody or anything. Not so much anything; it can be anybody. But yeah, so it's quite terrifying because you could be standing in the middle of a mall, and you can look around you in circles, and there might be one thing that's like one person that's directly walking straight at you, and it could be that. And if once it grabs you, you're dead. So it's quite an interesting concept. There was one really creepy one where inside in the movie where they're inside a house and someone's knocking at the door, and she goes, "Oh, who could that be?" He goes, "Oh, it must be so and so." Opens up the door, it's her friend, but it's so dark behind him, and then this big figure, must be like one of the world's tallest men, just walks to the door and stands up and starts following her. And you're like, "Oh crap, leg it,"
Yeah, that's like a sexually transmitted curse, isn't it? In that movie.
Yeah, that's how they sort of perceive it as. It can only be passed on once you've slept with somebody, and yeah. So, but the thing is, the thing can only walk, and it's only as fast as a walking pace human. So you could travel around the world, get to a certain point, live there for a while, because it'll take months to get there.
So just walk across the ocean, like on the floor of the ocean.
Well, I'd guess so, unless it bordered the same plane as you, but then you'd be stuffed anyway. But yeah, I'm guessing that's the way to beat It Follows, is just keep traveling around the world. But then how do you know when that person when it's there? If you know what I mean.
You'd have to live in the middle of the desert with a 1,000-foot wall around you.
That'd be really interesting. Yeah, there's different things. There's different takes on it. There was some videos on YouTube of how to beat it. It Follows, which is pretty cool. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head other horror movies. There's actually the 28 Days Later movies and the 28 Weeks Later aren't really super horrorish, but they're good, kind of zombie kind of flicks, I guess.
Probably the closest thing to a real life zombie apocalypse. They're pretty realistic the way they do it. Yeah,
no, those two films are one of my favorite films. I mean, I don't want to call them zombie movies, but they technically are. This infection, they bite, they go crazy, but it's more like a rage thing, which is what they call it, the rage virus. So there's no way in hell you'd survive the rage virus if it happened in real life.
Did they say they're going to do 28 years later, or is that in my head?
I think that's I heard after finishing 28 Weeks Later, I looked it up and they said 28 years later, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think 28 years later is a lot too. How does that even make sense? They made it last for 28 weeks later, which is plenty of years down the track. So
I don't know. But there's too many. I'm just looking at my shelf. So many. I just watched so much vampire movies growing up, like because I just was into vampires. Yeah, Queen of the Damned, unreal. The Blade series.
Yeah.
Yeah, Queen of the Damned and Interview the Vampire. They're two in the same universe. You definitely got to check them out if you haven't.
Yeah. No, there's
unreal movies.
I think there's a difference between good horror movies and just like really screwed up horror and screwed up movies, if you know what I mean. So look, I don't think the Saw movies are horror movies. I think it's more like gore porn. You're just watching people get dismembered and
a story no one can understand just so you can get to the next kill.
Yeah, I've never really liked it. But yeah, I mean, Hereditary apparently is one of the scariest movies. That's probably just got more of that shocking death when the daughter gets her head taken off.
It's a snore fest, man.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense. You get to the end and be like, oh.
I think right. I watched a review of it the other day. I just get up to date with it because I had watched a few a while ago, and they were saying it's more of a sad story than a horror movie.
Yeah, it's just like a weird cult kind of like it's like what happens in the later Paranormal Activities with that cult shit.
Yeah,
like with the witches and stuff. It's like that.
That's a good transition. The Paranormal Activity series, it's not super scary, but I found
the first one's the worst one. Like that's the scariest one.
Yeah,
and then the rest of them were just rip-offs.
As they went on, it was a bit more interesting. I found with the bit more of a cult following and stuff like that. But because I didn't know they had released another film after the ones I'd already seen, so that when he actually comes to life and kills kills this lady. So, but apparently they're making another one after that. So, tell if I know what they're going to do with it from here on out. But I mean,
I'm pretty sure the original chick is coming back for the next Paranormal. The chick in the first one.
Yeah. Ah, well. I mean, let's talk about probably one of the best horror movies of all time, though. Shaun of the Dead.
Oh yeah, that's just one of the best movies of all time.
I mean,
like literally out of every zombie movie ever made, Shaun of the Dead would be the best. Just if we're talking zombies.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Easily.
It's so simplistic, but so funny. I mean, the guys are geniuses, obviously.
Just their humor. Like, the zombies are getting closer and they're searching through the records because they don't want to break a good one.
Yeah. But it's funny because that's one of the one concept I couldn't understand is that they throw one and it hits, but then they're just launching it, and because they're discs, it all comes down to how you flick it, and they're like just flicking it the wrong way, and it's just smashing them against the wall.
Of the stuff's in the shed. I thought you said it was locked, and then you see the next scene, he's diving through the door.
Yeah, Shaun of the Dead is one of the best films of all time, and equally, I think not equally, I should say, but in that same universe, obviously, is what's it called? Hot Fuzz. Hot Fuzz is a great film too.
I'm really keen for the next one, and it fits with the theme what we're talking about. The next movie of them two is They're Paranormal Investigators.
Oh yes, I remember that now. That looks so sick. I cannot wait for that.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's going to be called, but that's definitely going to be a podcast chat because anything that Simon Pegg and Nick Frost do, I hype. Like Paul did The World's End, anything. It's all good.
Yeah, for sure. But no, that's some horror movies that you guys would be happy to watch. I mean, these days there's that many. It's oversaturated, but it's not good stuff. I guess you could say. Well, I actually thinking of one of the ones that was more of a remake. The Invisible Man. You watched that one?
Shit.
Yeah, and that reminds me of Hollow Man. Did you ever have you ever heard of Hollow Man? So
Hollow Man's what it's based off, isn't it?
Well, that's the thing. I haven't seen the Invisible Man, but I know it's a suit.
It's like a fucking tech predator suit. Like it's weird.
Yeah. Whereas Hollow Man is like he legitimately becomes invisible. Like something goes wrong.
Yeah, I remember that scene. The CGI as a kid, like his skin disappears and his muscles and his bones.
Yeah. No, that's Hollow Man used to frighten me. I kept thinking that something that you can't see but can see you, that frightens the hell out of me a little bit. But it's an interesting concept, I guess. But I'm just trying to think of any other movies, but we could drag on forever about crappy horror movies because there's plenty of them. There's very little good ones. Remember we were reading that the article the other day about the scariest horror movies of all time, and Sinister was at top. What do you think?
That piece of shit.
I think Sinister
Have you seen
1.
Sinister?
I think Sinister 1 isn't as bad as the follow-up, like Sinister 2.
Yeah, but it's definitely not the scariest movie ever made.
Nah, it's...
No way.
Nah, it's not. I definitely agree. It's not the scariest movie ever made. The thing is, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, what is the scariest? I mean, I keep thinking, like, the new Evil Dead, the remake, but that was just gory. That wasn't really scary. Like,
I reckon the scariest movie when it came out was the first Blair Witch.
Yeah, because people thought it was real.
That was the first found footage movie ever released.
And they thought that was real because the actors hadn't been seen.
Yeah, no actors, the director got the actors to go on hiatus for a year after it came out, so it was like they were gone.
Yeah.
Like, the director and the marketing team behind the Blair Witch were absolute geniuses.
Ahead of their time, really.
And it scared the world. Like, there was like... It was a catastrophe when it came out because everyone was so scared.
Yeah, yeah. And then there was
but now you're looking back and there's been 5,000 found footage horror movies every year come out.
Yeah, because there's Blair Witch. There's a sequel, isn't there?
Yeah, there's the Blair Witch Book of Secrets, which is the other one in the 90s that's just real shit.
Yeah.
And then there's the sequel in 2016.
Was that any good?
It's no, not really. It's like, so the first Blair Witch, it's the two dudes and the chick. They're the high school students doing the documentary in the woods or whatever about the folklore. And they go missing, obviously. That's how it ends. The sequel in 2016 is that you found out she had a younger brother, and he's obviously like our age now. And he's like, I'm going to go find my sister and document it, like she would have.
Oh, okay. Yep.
But like all the jump scares in it, because it's like obviously a bit more tech now. They've got drones and stuff.
Yeah.
And every jump scare is just like the drones crashing or like static sounds. And it's very cheap.
You know, talking about like good first movies and the sequels not being that flash. Well, actually, I actually like both of them. But Grave Encounters 1 and 2, I actually really enjoy.
Grave Encounters is one of the best horror movies.
It's so simplistic, but it feels so scary because I feel like they'd be an absolutely terrifying thing to happen, like to be stuck in an asylum. Oh, going through door after door. Oh.
And then you see those girls in the corners and they turn around, their face morphs. And I love Grave Encounters. I've seen that a bunch of times.
Yeah, number 1 I really enjoyed, and number 2 sort of built on the mythology of it, which I really enjoyed as well. But yeah,
how munted is it in the second one where they think they've escaped and then they open the hotel elevator and it's like the basement?
Yeah, that's what frightens me the most. Stuck in like a loop. Oh, I don't know. I keep the one thing. There's lots of things that can terrify you when you're in that situation, but there's one thing you'll never catch me doing is going down like cave diving. In small areas and like really narrow spots where you can get stuck. Oh, that frightens the hell out of me.
One movie where a cave ends well, besides Batman.
Yeah, that's true.
Like The Descent, dead. Sanctum, dead.
Oh, have you seen the actual movie The Cave? It's where like they go scuba, like they go diving through the water, and there's like a parasite in there, and it
rings a bell, maybe.
That was I actually really enjoyed that movie. I've watched it a couple of times because like everyone knows this, but I love films where the main character or one of the main characters like has to sort of like sacrifice himself by like injecting themselves with like or being bitten or something like that to like gain that.
Stay and detonate the nuke on the meteorite.
Yeah, where they have to like sort of embrace the darkness to defend or fight back against the darkness, if you know what I mean. Like one of them is 30 Days a Night, like when he becomes a vampire.
Yeah, I love that. That movie freaked my sister out as a kid. She hated those.
That was just great. That was just like a gruesome massacre of people just getting murdered. But I love that end scene when he walks out there and he's just like, I'm going to go fight the boss. Obviously the sequel was not that flash.
No.
But that reminds me, but in the cave, one of the main characters, like he has been infected and he's starting to like become one of these creatures, and so he can see in the dark a bit better and stuff like that. And so he takes them on. Not saying he's like super strong, but I can understand and he fights them, which is kind of cool. So, but I mean, like I said, we can go on this like this forever, but we can't because we'd be talking for hours on end. But yeah, let's just give it a little bit of a wrap up and let's talk about what we're going to be doing, obviously in the next couple of weeks or so. So. Obviously, today's episode has been a bit more horroristic with Halloween coming up. So, obviously, Ghosts of Tsumsima, really enjoyed that with the spiritual stuff. And we're on our way to the raid, which we're really keen for. Blood of Zeus, obviously, is not really horror, but has its aspects in it. The new show. And obviously, we've talked about new horror shows and movies that we suggest you should watch. Nick, what are we going to be doing in the next couple of weeks? Like, what's our next plan look like? Gaming wise, consoles come out in week and a half?
Well, yeah, my just 2 weeks. I think pretty sure it's 2 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah, my next 2 weeks is going to be no gaming and finishing uni for the year. I've got 2 weeks left of uni.
Oh crap!
And then it's PS5 in my veins, non-stop, all day, every day. I'm going to ring up Red Bull. I'm going to ask for a drip. I'm going to set my PS5 up in the toilet so I don't have to get off to do a shit. And then, I'll see you after Christmas.
Yeah, obviously, if everything goes to plan, hopefully everything releases properly and the launch day is a success, hopefully. You've got some few games coming up. Obviously, a few more delays have happened, and we'll talk about that in the next episode. But obviously, everyone would have seen it already, which was Cyberpunk. But we'll get to that later.
True horror.
But yeah, I mean, I've just been looking over. I've played a few games on my Steam account last night. Just had a bit of fun. I really want to finish Doom 1 and Doom Eternal. So,
yeah, I've done them. They're wild.
And obviously, but I've just subscribed to like Ubisoft's like a Premiere or Premium, service where you pay $20 a month and you get a catalog of their games. Obviously, Watch Dogs Legion comes out tonight or tomorrow morning, so I'll be playing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I'll be jumping on that and have a bit of a game of that and see how that goes. And then I'll probably do the same with Valhalla, Assassin's Creed. When that comes out, I'll just keep the subscription going for like another couple of months and pay $60 to play 2 games. I think that's the best way to go.
My first next gen games, I'm going to get COD on release, and then I'm going to do Godfall. Over Christmas break, I'll do Cyberpunk and Valhalla.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, at the start, I was just like, okay, Legion, and then I was going to put Godfall on hold and play Spider-Man Miles Morales, and then play Cyberpunk. But now Cyberpunk's been delayed by 21 days. It's not coming out till December.
So it's Godfall.
Yeah, I think I'll put Godfall in there for a bit.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. The armor sets look wild, I think.
Yeah, it just looks like an interesting and simplistic game, so I'm pretty keen. It has got co-op, so that's always good experience.
I don't want to sound like every games journalist ever, but it looks like Dark Souls, the combat.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, it's got that.
Yeah, it does have that feel about it. I do agree.
Can't wait for Steve to play it. If it's like Dark Souls,
you pack it up straight away. But it'd be really cool to play COD Zombies. That's one thing we're looking forward to. That's not too far away. And actually, speaking of COD, I'm probably going to get it on PC, I reckon.
It's cross-play. It doesn't matter what you get it anymore.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. But obviously, I might have to buy another hard drive to actually update Warzone and Call of Duty.
Oh, yeah, every 2 weeks? You've got like a 3,000 gig update?
Yeah. But anyways, we need to stop it there. Otherwise, we'll keep talking all night like we already have been. So anyways, would you do us the favour of signing us off here, Nick?
Yeah, well, you guys know what to do. All 5 of you listening, like us on all the social medias. We've got everything. We're Beardworks pretty well everywhere, any platform to listen to. Don't really think there's any. I think we're going on Amazon, or we're already on there.
I don't know what's going on. That's pending. Just they're getting in contact with our people. We're getting in contact with their people. It's just all over the place.
But yeah, this is the Halloween episode. Watch a horror movie after listening to the podcast, and yeah, peace out.
Enjoy.